Hello, this is Sheshachalam from Astroguide Mysore, and today we are going to get into a huge subject of medical astrology and Mars. Why only Mars is taken to be so important? Because Mars represents all those factors of blood which is the most important tissue, and this particular blood is the one which circulates everywhere in our body. So it is something like a carrier who can carry things from one place to another. So diseases, if at all have to be cured, it is mostly through purification of blood, or let us say throwing away toxics, or diseases, if it has to be carried from one part to another part, is also through blood. So you should understand one thing, that Mars in a horoscope is very important, and its placement and its strength is extremely important for medical science or medical astrology. The other relevance of this subject, this particular topic and this particular class being important, is that the karaka for the sixth house is Mars. There are no other karakas for the sixth house. We know that Sun and Saturn are happy when they are transiting in the sixth or sitting in the sixth house. That's not a problem. But they are not the karakas. The main karaka, that is signifier, the significations of the sixth house: Ripu, Runa, Roga, service, Shrama. Ripu, Runa, Roga, Shrama, and also competition. Ripu, enemies. Runa, loans, debts. Roga, that is illnesses, difficulties, discomfort, diseases, etc. Injuries, all of this are represented by the sixth house. You need to fight your enemies. You need to have the strength of Mars, the courage. You need to pay off your debts. You need to have the motivation to go and work and make some money and then pay it off. Motivation. You need to come out of diseases. You need to go out and work and sweat. You need to purify your blood, and that in turn will start curing each and every part of your body, because it goes to every cell of your body. It touches there, and it touches base. That's the only tissue, that's the only blood is the only organ or tissue which goes every place, and is the one which knows what's happening and where. But if blood gets afflicted, that is Mars gets afflicted in a chart, either way, if it is too strong, dangerous; if it is too weak, dangerous; if it is malefically posited, dangerous. So we need to understand and ascertain the strength of position of Mars in a chart. So let us understand today's medical astrology for the planet Mars. So as you know, I have written only 3 headings today, because this is having a huge list and I was not able to even fill this. So I just thought, okay, I will just write 3 important points and then read them out to you. And I'll be doing a slow class. I'll not go so fast, because it's a huge class and these things have to be understood point to point. So parts of the body and organs that are represented by Mars. So let us go into it one by one. All those lymph nodes all around the body, all those connectors which are connecting the bone and the muscle tissue, is represented by Mars. The muscle, the strings are attached from one part of a joint to another part of a joint, which gives you, like for example, the biceps, the triceps, the trapezius, the so many things, hamstrings, all these muscles are all represented by Mars. You lose the Mars in the chart, you lose the muscle weight. If Mars is weak, afflicted by a female planet, you will more look more feminine. And if Mars is afflicted by very strong male planet, even a female will look more masculine. It's the sense that here we are not suggesting that muscle building is only for men. Nothing like that. But that is a usual trait, that feminine looks and masculine looks can be differentiated in this particular aspect, and that is ruled by Mars. And if Mars is debilitated, spoiled in a chart, very weak in a chart, then you can see a man having more feminine characteristics. So this is also one of the most important medical astrology factors. So coming to the point here, as I told you, this is a link between organs. The blood circulation is the most important point, which actually I have written here, which is called as the functionality. So Mars suggests the head, that is the ram, Aries, ram, the male goat, very powerful being, the ibex. You have seen the ibex, the huge horns, they have a superpower in their brain. They can go and smash into things. That is the power of Mars, and it represents the head. And if Mars gets afflicted, there might be to the head. Same placement of Mars in the Kalapurusha, that is in the regular zodiac, is that Mars is also the lord of Scorpio. The Scorpio sign is the eighth sign, which represents the hidden parts of the body. Likewise, if Mars is super exalted or very strong in a chart, a person will become lustful, or he will have the potency. It's very strong. If the same planet is very weak, lustful is when it is malefically also afflicted. But if the same planet is very weak in a chart, not well placed, the potency decreases, and there is absolutely very less attraction between genders. So when there is, what happens after this, it is a lot of difficulties what people go through, and there is a huge, uh, business which is running behind this, where people would say that we can rectify your problem. You can come here, you can do this, you can take these pills, it will enhance your strength. Please try to enhance Mars. Don't unnecessarily go for artificial enhancements, very dangerous. So let us go into the other parts. The micro particles are what we call as the parts of the blood, the platelets, the WBCs, and the fixation of the hemoglobin, RBCs, red blood corpuscles, WBCs, and the platelets. All these are represented by Mars. Particularly, it represents the fighting instinct. The fighting instinct is because of the immune system. I think somebody asked me in one of my queries in the comment section in the YouTube. Somebody has asked me that please explain about autoimmune or immune deficiency. Mars, if it is debilitated and you have a combination of Saturn Rahu, Mercury Rahu, and they are all very weakly positioned, the Lagna loses strength. Immune deficiency can come in the, come to the native. So it is like you need to strengthen Saturn by practicing uh, discipline, Mars by getting motivated into physical work, and Rahu, you need to stop your night activity and make it more, day oriented. So, Mars also represents all those areas where you can get inflammations, eruptions, like, for example, acne, a very simple problem. Very simple problem, right? But if I go into another point, you will now suddenly get a little worried. Yes, it is a very strong point. Everybody knows that this is very tough. This comes inside the major bracket of piles. We have fissures, piles, fistula, where you get bleeding. You also know that if you don't well maintain your teeth, your gums also will bleed. So all these external bleeding or even internal bleeding because of bad habit, that is particularly with regard to bad habit of food, can also be seen by Mars, and that is called ulcers. Pitta, it is Pitta. Why do we take this fellow so seriously? Because he is Pitta. Lot of heat. You need to dissipate the heat. You need to work out and sweat. When you sweat, what will happen to your body? It cools you down. So you need to sweat. You can't keep the energy inside you and tell that things will work out. I am fine. I'm not doing much of a job. So my body is not tired. I'm fine. I can do a lot of work. I will sit and work for 15 hours, 16 hours. You can do all those 15 hours, 16 hours job, not a problem. But be prepared for problems of ulcers, problems of piles. Be prepared for all this, because where will Mars go? And it's not tired now. Mars will never get tired. So it will have its energy in the body, and somewhere or the other it has to showcase. So it will showcase by starting the first problem of Mars. The first problem of Mars is how many people are suffering today from this? Majority of the society is suffering from constipation. The first problem of Mars a person gets is constipation. That is purely because of bad routine. From there, you will get many other problems, all these problems, and then it will end up here. Once it ends up here, it is very difficult to revert. So if you are serious of coming out of the problems of given by Mars, solve this. Solve this constipation. So what should you do to solve that? As I told you in my earlier days, in my earlier videos, not my earlier days, earlier videos, sorry. 2 years back, I would always make a joke of a very serious problem, but I would make a joke of it because in our Kannada language, my mother tongue, we always say that A person who does not know how to, I'm just telling it in English first, then I'll tell you in Kannada, my local tongue. It's so beautiful to talk that tongue. So, the person who does not know how to eat food, how to sleep well, and who does not clear his stools properly in the morning is not living a good life. That means he is going through diseases or he will go through diseases. So in Kannada, we would tell that ಯಾರಿಗೆ ಊಟ ಗೊತ್ತು ಊಟ ಬಲ್ಲವನಿಗೆ ರೋಗವಿಲ್ಲ. This is a beautiful saying. ಊಟ ಬಲ್ಲವನಿಗೆ, the person who knows how to eat food and what to eat will never get into diseases. The second sentence is ಊ ಮಾ ಹೆ ಸರಿಯಾಗಿರ್ಬೇಕು. So it's u mahe. U means uta, food, eating food, consumption of food. Ma means malaguvudu, means sleeping. He means to defecate or to pass stools or clear your body in the morning. So if a person does not perform well in these three aspects, in food, sleep, and defecation, he will 100% get into problems of health. So, if it is a prolonged habit of 15 years or 14 years, you will have problems starting from Mars. Not even 15 years. You do it for 2 years, you will understand constipation will become your headache. Constipation will become your headache. Who is head? Mars. And who gives you the ache? Mars. And how does he give it? Through constipation. And how? Because there is a gaseous formation of gas, gastroenteritis or GERD, all these happen starting from constipation. So, Mars and Sun are the two major planets of Pitta who are very clearly telling us that we need to digest our food. So these are the planets which are actually the Adhipatis, are the signifiers of digestion. So let me come here. So this is the functionality. Digestion is the functionality of Mars. Constipation is the disease what Mars gives if your digestion fails. These things are other things. So let us come to that also. So, just a minute. Just made some notes. Okay. We have left out one very important point here. If good food is not digested and you do not get the strength out of that food and then use it for building your body, in your younger age, you will lose the strength for like the virility, the courage, the bone strength, the bone marrow strength. So bone marrow, we call it as majje in Kannada. Bone marrow is purely represented by Mars. And we know how important it is. And bones are represented by Sun. So Sun and Mars jointly are controlling one of the most important organs of our body. And you are deficient in this, then you know what all can happen. So be very careful. Eat all. See, this is immediately I'm giving you what we call as a remedial measure. Eat all those orange, red, and yellow vegetables and fruits which are grown in the tropics. That is in the sunlight, in the heat. The heat and the sunlight. Heat and the sunlight both can give you good bone marrow and good strong bones. So, going into the other important points of yeah, as I told you, the performance in men. I came here particularly entirely depends on the strength of Mars in a chart. So it fails, the performance fails. Okay, let us go into the diseases now. People can go through anemia. It's a very simple thing. It is because it is blood. Okay, and people can go through low red blood cells, low platelets. Nowadays, people did not even know that there were platelets in the blood. Even a person who is a layman now knows what is platelets. That's all because after the corona period, we know that, eating the papaya leaf juice is good for us. Carica papaya pills have come. So these are all, boosters for, boosting our platelet and count. And why did we come into so much of sudden knowledge? That's all because we fell into the problem of diseases. We fell into the infections of virus. So viral infections have given us knowledge to how to understand how to fight. So we now know what is the importance of vitamin C. Vitamin C. You started taking vitamin C capsules in the corona period. And what is vitamin C? That is what I am trying to tell you. Eat oranges, eat all those red, orange, and yellow kind vegetables and fruits which have a lot of vitamin C. Guavas. Guavas have the highest vitamin C. So eat guavas. Don't eat too much. Eat guavas. So, too much of platelets, blood clots, seizures, hemorrhage represented by Mars. Because Mars also represents the brain. It doesn't only represent the head. What is in the head? The brain, the meninges. The meninges. So Mars also represents meningitis. In one way, Mars is also one of the planets which represents the problem of meningitis. So, high blood pressure. It's also because of two factors. Blood pressure is because the strength, the blood itself is not that good. It is high. The thickness of the blood has increased, and that is why the blood pressure is there. And then they give you thinners. But there is also another factor that Venus plays a very important role in deflation and inflation of the veins and the arteries. So the pipes, the tubes, this all those conveyors. If those become constricted, if the capillaries become constricted, the blood going through the capillaries will have a lot of difficult path it is to move. So the pressure will increase. So blood pressure is also seen from Mars. Strokes, epilepsies, inflammations, diseases of the nervous system. Again, we need to understand Mars and its association with Mercury, association with Moon, association with Rahu, and association with Sun to understand strokes, epilepsies, inflammations, and diseases of the nervous system. Boils and wounds. As I said, it also represents acne. So scalding, hot water on the skin, and you have skin damage, you have injuries, falling down, breaking a bone, fractures. All this comes under Mars. There are some diseases in which you can see um, pigmentation because of eruptions over the skin. Particularly, we can associate psoriasis as a skin disease for Mars, and also eczema. Eczema, eczema is a peculiar kind of a disease which is also because of the failure of the immune system, but still it is also represented by Mars, Rahu, Saturn, because eczema is more chronic. Rahu, it wants it to spread. Mars is the one which it is related to the immune system. So all these three fellows, when they join together, they can give skin eruptions, problems of fungus infections, and eczema. So ulcers, as we spoke, and eruptions and irritations. Just a minute, yeah, meninges, burn injuries, accidents, explosions and acid burns. So this also happens in hazardous situations when people are working under hazardous conditions. They need to be extremely careful because people, they have to work in those conditions. They go there, they work there, and they may be exposed to acid fumes. The inhalation of acidic fumes which might go inside and start burning the lungs and even the esophagus. So you need to be very careful there. These are all again coming under Mars. So piles, painful defecations, disorders of the rectum and the anus. Yes. Bone marrow, drying of the bone marrow. A peculiar kind of a problem. And, you know, Anyway, cancerous things, every planet has one or the other part of the body which can go into cancer, but that is all related to other planetary combinations like Rahu or Saturn, which are getting associated with it. So, just Mars will not give you cancer. It might give you difficulties. The excess of it can make it can create a damage. Less, very less, no functionality at all. Well, so Mars alone cannot give you any cancerous problems, but if it is associated with malefics, yes, it can give cancer. Diseases of the veins, that is the blood clots. I am again repeating these things, particularly varicose veins. The swelling of the veins in the legs can be seen if three planets are very strongly associated and malefic and negative. Those are Mars, Venus, and Saturn. So varicose veins comes into picture. And disorders of sexual disorders of men, because of their either non-maintenance or because of promiscuous attendance somewhere else. So in women, the same thing can result in menstrual disorders. So this because the menstruation also is a signifier. Then Mars is the signifier of menstruation, and it very clearly signifies that. So excessive or no bleeding at all can be seen. Pain, abortions, miscarriages, hormone dysfunctions with regard to the ovarian. The womb, actually, whether it can protect the fetus or it cannot protect the fetus, whether the fetus can lodge itself into, no, not the fetus, the embryo. When it rolls out, the it comes and then sits into the womb, whether it can lodge itself and put an umbilical cord, that is the root, into the lamina of the womb. That itself is controlled by Mars. Conception is controlled by Sun, and Mars controls this particular part where it is trying to take the food or root itself into the mother's womb and start its life. So that can be seen from Mars, and that has to be seen in detail to understand whether people who are having problems in conceiving, whether this particular stage is the one which is failing. We need to understand that. Only after understanding we can go ahead with regard to how to go about to this particular challenge. Not every challenge, not every medical problem can be attended by astrology. And tell me if every other science can attend it. Not every problem can be attended. So we should understand that there is a limitation for every science. So within the limitation, we are trying to work out something using our purushartha, that is the free will. The free will has some part of play, that is, it can do something. There is some freedom, but it is not that everything is fixed. So that is why astrology is studied, so that diagnosis is done and the cure is faster, or you can recover faster. So that's why. So Mars represents the throat chakra. Anyway, I'm talking, and all this talk is coming from the vocal cords and the shoulder bones. So this particular area has one major organ, which is the thyroid. So Mars represents the thyroid organ. So Mars also is the Karaka for the third house. We should not forget this. Mars is the Karaka for the third house. Mars is the Karaka for the sixth house. So these two major important Upachaya sthanas, the houses of growth, is represented by Mars. So please try to understand, if you need growth in life, you need to enhance your Mars, or you need to become a Martian. So, throat problems, harsh speech, uncontrolled speech, or there might be even ulcerations in the throat very often. So, injuries with weapons and instruments and diseases of battlefield. So, this has a different part to play altogether. It's not only the battlefield now. Nowadays, the battlefield for a person is the ICU. You know what is an ICU? Everybody knows what's an ICU. They'll get a phone call that, oh, my friend suddenly fell and he is in the ICU. That is the battlefield where you will have all instruments and weapons trying to save you. Anyway, they are not trying to kill you there. They are trying to save you. And while saving you, they have to, if a person has gone through an accident, he has broken some bones, he has to be repaired. It's actual clear repair. They have to cut, open, put it back into place, even nuts, bolts, wires, and then stitch it back. So they do this day in, day out in emergencies. So Mars totally controls this particular part of the hospital. So thank you very much for today's class. And I hope you have understood that in between I have given you some remedial measures for Mars. Please go out in the sun, do your walking, drink a lot of water, be physically active. Do not be active at night, be active in the morning. Eat some good fresh fruits and vegetables which are yellow, orange, and red in color. And God bless. Thank you.